Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Care here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of February 2nd, 2023. The current character challenge is Dawn of Justice Superman. That is a 1 week repeat. The required characters for that are Zod, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday, who you can get at gold, bronze, and silver respectively if you're looking at the lowest tier they're available in the shop. His passive is Shattering Blow, which is Superman's special attacks have a chance to shatter equipment, temporarily disabling all gear on the opponent. It's got 1,300 attack and 1,300 health, and was last available on April the 7th, 2022.
Right. High stats, good high stats.
Yeah.
And so he's a lot of fun. Sometimes you get stuck in a really long drawn out fight where you're down to the opponent's tank, and it could be something like Batman, Ninja Batman, and they could have a loadout where they take no damage or so little that he can almost wait you out, or even maybe he's got a bunch of healing gear. So, and it also saves you a bit of time when you're facing Astro Harness, because you could even more quickly strip off the gear than our previous loadout with Claw of Horus.
Yeah.
So the things you need to know about his passive is that your special has to be unblocked for his passive to trigger. And that's not the same as Claw of Horus. Claw of Horus, it has a chance to shatter opponent's gear whether they're blocking or not.
Yeah.
The other thing that differentiates this between Claw of
Horus...
Horus...
that's a disadvantage.
Yes, it is.
But then there's an advantage.
Right. So gear shattering will last a full minute, even if the opponent tags out. Claw of Horus, the gear shattered, you tag out, it rinses it, you tag back in, all your gears are good again. Problem is, it's only a 40% chance instead of the 75% chance with Claw of Horus.
Yeah.
So Claw of Horus is just happening more often. 75% chance of every special, whether it's blocked or not, and this is 40% only of the unblocked specials. The good news is you can stack it with Claw of Horus. And I believe that the animation for his passive Shattering Gears seems to be at the beginning of the special, and Claw of Horus's animation seems to happen at the end. However, except when you leverage Claw of Horus, like we do in the video with Enchantress's, the Enchantress Companion Gear, in which case the Claw of Horus, that effect can happen at the beginning of the special, just as the skulls from the previous special come flying in. And we've got a previous video demonstrating this effect, and I think our caption was "Busting makes me feel good."
Yeah.
Because it's
a line from
gears.
the Ghostbusters song.
Right.
And nothing else.
But I guess the other thing is, you can see it in the current video, we're just not talking specifically about what's happening on the screen. The specifics, we're just talking in general. And I'll tell you, some passives are good for making your team more powerful, easier wins, faster fights, and some can be that, but also really fun.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the real fun ones. And it's a toss-up. Sort of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's something really satisfying about sort of modifying the rules of engagement, right?
Yes.
Where you think you're building a team to be put on sort of online with your gear and with all these synergies, and then you're just taking away sort of one of the foundational parts of how they built their team.
Right. Dawn of Justice Superman is great for this kind of approach. Man of Steel is also really good too. So even though Man of Steel Superman doesn't have a gear shattering passive, because he's got the passive that lets him get his power back, Man of Steel, you get more specials and more Claw of Horus attempts. Dawn of Justice Superman, you get a higher chance with each special because you get the Claw of Horus plus his passive stacked. And sometimes the Gear Shatter effect will last past a tag out. So it's a bit of a toss-up. They're both really good. They're both really fun to play exactly like this. And before the footage that you're seeing now, I tried using Dawn of Justice Superman as the main damage dealer. But really, letting New 52 Wonder Woman be the damage dealer and give everyone on her team power just makes the entire team better. And it lets you do other things with his gear slots.
Yeah, so there we go. This is the 141st week of a repeating pattern that started in May of 2020. We've had 3 complete runs of a 43-week cycle. We were 12 weeks into the 4th cycle. Next week should be animated Batman Beyond. That 43-week cycle is missing 23 challenge characters, unfortunately, who used to be available at one point, but now are no longer available unless you got them the first time around, and then they're in your store.
Right.
This week's multiplayer reward is Nightwing's Ninjato, which becomes the Brandished Ninjato. And its effects are, it retargets 90% of enemy AoE, area of effect damage, to wielder of this item with 50% damage absorb. There's a 40% max health increase. You reflect 16% of the damage, but only for Nightwing. That's the Nightwing specific ability. And then its last ability is give 300% of received area of effect damage as power. It was last available on the 30th of June, 2022. We're 109 weeks in a row for this pattern. That's 3 cycles of 31 rewards and 16 weeks into a 4th cycle. Nothing's missing from this one. And next week, we should expect to see Riddler's staff for the multiplayer reward.
Right. So we had a recent question about this. It might have been from Cameron 107. I feel like that's
yeah.
It feels true.
Yeah, because this is the ability is a little confusing. There's a lot of stuff, and the way that all interacts with each other is not super clear just from the description.
So we don't use this gear a lot on our teams because it's got very little offensive potential, but it's got a great defensive potential. And the offensive potential, it's not zero offensive potential, but there's some, but it comes from facing someone who gives splash damage. And they need to do some splash damage against you, and then it gives you a lot of power while also protecting the rest of your team. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's definitely an interesting synergy to the abilities, right? So, like we talked about during our Q&A, you pull most of the splash damage on the person holding Ninjato. You get rid of half of it. So that means teammates get hit with only 10% of the original splash damage, which is tiny. And if you're relying on that, you're not going to get it. And the holder gets 45%, which is half of the 90%, in addition to the original special damage.
Yeah.
So 40% boosted health means there's a better chance of surviving the special and the splash that you're drawing to yourself. And 300% of received splash damage becomes power. And like we discussed in that Q&A, the percentage of health loss is tripled and given as percentage of power. So if you lose 33% health, you get 100% power.
Yeah.
That's
Which
basically
is pretty
it. Yeah. So if you're lower health, you can get more power that way because the damage as a percentage of your health is higher.
Yeah.
So damage reflection is good. 16% is not a lot in most cases, not game changing, it's not fight changing. And the problem with using it on our own team is that the biggest potential splash damage cards, which are Lucifer Bane and any of the Batgirls with a stun boosted damage gear like Cloak of Destiny or Necron Scythe, they have to hit you.
Yeah.
And because they so rarely hit us, it's taking up an entire gear slot to generate power for those specific situations where the opponent actually gets to launch a special. Not worth it. It's
one of those gears that's only useful against a small number of teams sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that's not good for offense, where you want a gear to be useful always. That just also happens to help you, make sure you can take care of those small number of teams. But it is good for defense, where you only need sort of, it's a straight numbers game. You need to win any of your defensive battles for it to be valuable to you.
Right.
So you can only, win against 1% of enemy teams, or only a certain type of enemy team, because, you don't have to be the person who's actively playing it. You just have to basically leave it in and roll the dice and hope you get lucky.
And even on our one team that relies a lot on splash damage, which is our Flashpoint team, right? So Deathstroke is their main damage dealer. He's geared to do a lot of splash damage. It's not even really a problem with that because it just, the damage output is just so high. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing splash and have Tentu Totem and someone is coming in with lots of power because of the Ninjato after you've knocked out their teammate or something, then it's just a race to do another special with the power that you get back before they do.
Yeah.
And as you can see in some examples in our footage against Killing Joke Joker with this current loadout where our specialist, our main damage output person, has Enchantress, or that the secondary specialist has Enchantress. Mm-hmm. When we don't try to knock him out last, it's effectively the same thing, right? You go for Killing Joke Joker, use the first slot, you knock him out, you got 2 opponents that are going to tag him with 3 bars of power. And there's going to be a few examples of fights where that happens. They never get to use their power because we are disabling their specials and super with Enchantress companion gear. Mm-hmm. Really super effective that way. And yeah, I guess the other thing too is if the person in front of you is holding Ninjato, sure, they're going to generate a lot of power, but because of it, they're more likely to be knocked out because they're getting the damage special, they're getting the splash damage. And even if the splash damage is reduced because they're reflecting it on you, it boosts the amount of damage that's done to them.
Yeah.
And it almost makes up for the boost in health, so it's not awful. It's not that difficult to fight against.
Yeah, it's hard to take more damage than you would normally, right? And see that as an upside, right?
Yeah.
The chance of them getting to use it against you versus it just finishing them off more handily is relatively low. So a lot of times it'll actually be potentially a little bit beneficial to you.
And I was going to go into a whole thing about how it does a funny interaction with Master Death Card. We've talked about it before. It's probably not worth going to because this week is going to be a slightly longer recap because it is the first week of the month and we're going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the glitches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So getting into what's in the store, we have the character bundle Rebirth team. That's $24.99 Canadian. All these prices are going to be in Canadian because that's the
currency that matters.
That's the number that we got.
Yeah.
And it comes with Rebirth Wally West and Rebirth Green Arrow. We also have the Batman animated pack for $37.99. Both of these packs have been sort of the same price the last time we saw them.
Although if you go really far back with Batman animated pack, you could have paid $2 more for it.
No, in 2020?
Yeah.
What if only I had a time machine? I could go back in time and pay $2 extra. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to. And that comes with animated Batman Beyond, animated Harley Quinn, and Batman Beyond. And so animated Batman Beyond is a challenge character, and Batman Beyond is a console unlock. Yeah, so these are relatively speaking a little rarer.
Yeah, and the thing about the console unlock is I remember reading somewhere where, because we've had this character for a long time, we had the console unlock when we did it, is that it's been decoupled from it so that the console unlocks don't work anymore for anybody who's joining the game sort of recently. So if you're a completionist, it might be worth it just to get the copy because I think it's not possible to get it otherwise.
And doesn't it, for some of them, I don't know if it's with this one, but doesn't it allow you to get them in packs once you've unlocked them through the console unlock?
Yeah, the problem is we can't test these because we
don't have. I guess we could make a new account, but that would be a lot of work.
And then spend $38 just to answer this question.
Yeah,
and then play along.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. We also have the Femme Fatale pack on its second week, the Rebirth Jessica Cruz challenge pack on its fourth week.
That's weird. We've never had a challenge pack last more than a couple weeks before.
Yeah, that is strange. It's been sticking around for longer. Then it makes sense. And then in terms of stuff we've had for a long time, more than a year, character bundle Batman Universe, 61 weeks, most wanted pack, 68 weeks. We're not sure when to take these off and just consider them sort of like permanent packs at this point.
Right.
And we also have the Celebration and the metal packs. So it's been 53 weeks for Shazam and the Joker, and it's been 55 weeks for Aquaman. Lots of celebrating. Right. Not sure what they're celebrating exactly, but seems like they've been doing it for too long.
They should be getting tired of partying. They probably got a really bad hangover now.
For sure.
So Phantom Zone.
Well, I guess you can't have a hangover if you just stay drunk.
No, that's true. That's like the fur of the dog. What's that they call that?
Hair of the dog?
Hair of the dog. That's
it's a really bad life hack.
Yeah. So Phantom Zone is done. Fight 62 is still broken. Last week's breakthrough for golds was Bane, Killer Frost, and Ares. This coming weekend is probably Sinestro, Green Arrow, and Scorpion. And there's a link in the description to a Reddit thread from Devil 16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is the first week of the month. So we are going to go through sort of our more in-depth explanation of all the glitches. The entire playlist with all the videos for how to actually do the glitches themselves, because this is just sort of like a commentary about extra tips and tricks, advice that you might want if you find something missing from one of those videos. But the actual videos themselves with the complete instructions are accessible by reaching the playlist linked in the eye in the top right corner of this video right now, or going onto our channel and navigating to our playlist and finding the glitch playlist, or I assume looking it up on YouTube. There's probably a lot of ways to get at it. But we'd like to say right at the start here that we are on Android. We are specifically on Android 8?
9.0.
9.0, sorry, 9. And so we're only able to, I always forget that because we go through it so rarely now. But we are only able to sort of talk directly about our version of Android and what we're working with, but we will have some sort of tips from other versions as relevant.
Right. And I think the importance of our discussion here is to highlight stuff that is not in the playlist or not so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So that means talking about stuff that doesn't work, that might have worked before, that people ask about because they want it to work or want something like it to work. So there's no working glitch for credits for power credits, and we talk about this in more detail in a previous episode of our P and Q and CNA&T, when that's what it's called, Season 6, Episode 9. And the main problem when it was definitely working was that it was a glitch that required being simultaneously logged into one account on two different devices. And for a lot of reasons, we don't endorse that. One of them, which is that it is a big risk for having your account suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And after a recent bug fix update, not recent actually, it's been more than a year, it feels like, that we just haven't even bothered testing it because in principle it seems like it's not worth knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And glitch for getting repeated past multiplayer season rewards not working. Glitch to get early multiplayer season rewards is not working in a way that's exploitable. So it's still happening to people sometimes randomly. And I think it has to do with timing it like really badly with your connection. So the whole point of exploiting is to get the top tier rewards. And if you can't get to the top right away and stay there really fast, then you're going to burn yourself and lose out on a chance at the season's rewards. So not working. And when his Phantom Zone is working or is active, which it's not now, there's no glitch to get through quickly. And the glitch that used to let you get the free energy without watching the video, also not working. If the video button is available, you have to watch it to get the free credits. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Moving on to the working glitches. The glitch to let you play Phantom Zone repeatedly is still working. As of last, we were able to test it. Challenge reset method is still working, and that's tested and confirmed on Dawn of Justice Superman. The important part, and the reason why we mentioned them together, is that the challenge reset can reset your Phantom Zone progress, and the Phantom Zone can reset the challenge progress. They're basically the same glitch. So we want you to have somewhere in the back of your head the idea that if you're resetting either, that you want to make sure that you're not accidentally resetting the other one when you don't want to. Right. So you're not doing work, spending time, and then having that sort of taken away from you, because that can be pretty annoying.
Right.
If you are on Android 10 or presumably later and having trouble because you need to re-download more than a gigabyte of data every time you clear app data, there is a possible solution. We've put that in the description from user Tanmay Kakde for how you can just move files around on your device instead of actually deleting and re-downloading them.
Yeah. Okay. Airplane mode glitch is those. We also call it the refund glitch, is still working. It's good for both packs with random drops, such as the challenge pack, and also last laugh tickets. We should point out that it does not work in the Phantom Zone when Phantom Zone is around, because that's something that requires you to maintain a internet connection. Mm-hmm. And we strongly recommend against doing a variation of the glitch where you switch between accounts instead of clearing app data, because there's too big a risk of account bleeding, where details from one account overwrites only partially bits of your other account, and you end up with a big headache. Mm-hmm. Breakthrough glitch to let you play repeatedly is still working too.
Mm-hmm. Time shifting still works in Android for unlimited survivor play and energy recharges. As always, turn your cooldown/countdown clock back to normal before you finish and start playing as normal. That can create some weird stuff with like the store and other like time-based things. And last but not least, kind of in between, or did you already talk about the in between?
I did not.
No, sorry. In between the not working and working glitches, we have the promotion glitch where you can promote characters that are still locked. It hasn't had the right conditions since update 2.14, so it's not testable, it's not usable, but we are keeping it here on a technicality because it's never failed us when the conditions were right. They just changed it so the conditions never happen.
Correct. Okay. And that's it. So this is the part where we like to give a big shout out and thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Mm-hmm. And that's Corey Ashcraft supporting us at the last word tier. See, I got it right that time.
Nice.
Michael DeVries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Drew Chapman, who are supporting us on the credited level. And a nice list of the people who have supported us during this pandemic.
Are going across your screen right now, or a second ago, depending on our timing.
I don't know if I wouldn't make promises like that.
Okay. Well, whatever. So thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.